I'm on my way to meet Will Cottrell, one of the founders of Brighton Energy.
This train terminates at Brighton.
So that's Met, that big tower there.
What's that?
That's the college we're gonna.
Oh, is it? So
Yeah.
you've got solar on the top of that?
It's not that room. It's just done an extension that you can't see.
Okay.
But
So this is the place where we're basically headed. This huge building.
yeah, it's a sort of vocational college. So 16 to 18-year-olds
Yeah.
who probably aren't going to university tend to do more practical stuff like mechanics or
Yeah.
there's an aircraft maintenance training course, this kind of thing. So yeah, the more vocational type of college rather than a A-level college.
Yeah.
And this is one of 4 sites. They've got 4 sites around town
Right.
doing this, and we've done all 4. Solar with them.
So how does that work with them? Basically, do you sell them the energy that they use?
Yeah, so we generate electricity with the solar panels,
Yeah.
and we sell that electricity to them at a sort of cheap rate.
Yeah.
So typically they pay 12, 13, 14p from the grid, and
Yeah.
we're charging them, I think, 9p. So
Wow, that's
any
a massive saving.
yeah, they'll be saving. Met here will be saving maybe £4,000 or £5,000 a year on their electricity bill.
Yeah.
I think in the property or the maintenance.
Probably someone from the States, so you need
Yeah.
access to the roof. do you?
Yeah,
So how many sites all across Brighton have you got now?
62.
62.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot.
And do you like?
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Should we give up?
Yeah, do you want to sign in or anything?
Sorry? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you will need to sign in. You won't have to run under the jackets and stuff.
How's it going? You guys busy at the moment?
Yeah, very busy.
Okay.
It's a fire exit, so it's always open.
Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Cheers. Wow.
The roof is your oyster.
That's a great one.
Yeah, Dan's here too. Looking at starting up a similar organisation to us
Oh, okay.
in
Yeah.
London.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah. We've got plenty of roof up here for it, haven't you?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, is it all the energy for the building that you get from this?
It's not all the energy, no, but it's a great contribution.
Yeah.
When you consider, like, this is all new. The bits on the wings, actually, that was part of our new build.
Yeah.
But this stuff here is all Brighton Energy.
Yeah. It's really good. So, do you know what proportion of the energy you're getting?
Not off the top of my head, no.
It's
I wasn't realised I was being interviewed on
Oh,
this.
sorry about
It's
that.
about it's about 10 or 20%.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, it's a big electricity user.
10 or 20% from the your panels.
Yeah.
And is anything going back in the grid from there?
I wouldn't have thought so. No, it's been all used today on the day. Sell it when. I mean, how many students are here?
At the moment, about 500.
Right. So it's a lot of. There's a lot of
Yeah.
quite high electricity.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare this to something like a primary school. We've got 15 primary schools around the city, and primary schools we usually can power about sort of 80-90% of their energy. Something like that.
Yeah.
Secondary school is about 50%, and
Right.
a college like this, it seems to be about 10 or 20%. So I mean, as the kids get older, they're doing more stuff. They're using more power. So yeah, it depends. on
Oh,
the
I
type
see.
of building.
Right. So, in other words, well, if you had more space, you could be giving them more energy.
Good to yeah.
There's more roof.
Yeah.
What about the roof up there? Is that?
There is roof up there. The trouble is we've got a lot of comms up there.
Oh, have you?
So getting to work up there is very tricky.
Yeah.
Because of course, yeah, the vibrations, the
health and safety around
Well,
those things.
it's a health and safety around those comms. You just can't get anywhere near them.
Oh,
Unfortunately, the entrance hatch is just by them, and then working by them is a no-no.
Is there a lift gear up there as well?
There's not lift. There's lift gear to the 11th floor, but then there's above that.
Oh, okay.
So of course, but there's no lift to that floor as well. So getting everything there would be an extra
Oh right, okay.
up the steps. And I think we did look at, didn't we? Putting that there.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, that's one of the considerations: cost, getting the things up there, what sort of access there is. Is there edge protection up there?
No.
So you've got to put in edge protection.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, here you've got walls and things, so you can't just walk off them. But there's things like that to consider as well. When you,
Yeah.
I should point out as well, Dan's a filmmaker as well as
Yes.
starting an energy co-op.
Well, you can tell.
You can tell that,
You
can't
can tell a filmmaker because they're always filming. Whatever's going on.
And that's why it's nice to have a little.
I'm Will Cottrell, and I'm chairman of Brighton Energy Co-op, and we're standing on the roof of Met College in Brighton today on the Pelham Street site, their new build here, with 300 of our solar panels that we put on here 2 months ago. So yeah, these things are the solar panels that we use. They're Longi 375 watt panels, and as you mentioned, you know, there's seagull crap on these panels, and this is a fact of life here in Brighton. You know, we factor that into our models when we work out what we think they're going to produce in the real world.
Yeah.
Beyond what's the sort of laboratory or the AI might think they could produce. So things like getting seagull dirt on them is part of that, and it doesn't affect it dramatically. It gets washed off whenever it rains next. It's due to rain later in the week. So each one is connected in various strings. There's about 20 different strings of solar panels on here, and yeah, they power. One of these panels is 375 watts, so what that means is it's probably enough to boil a kettle at the moment in this kind of sunshine. So
like, you mean it could do, like, if you plugged a kettle into it now, it would boil the kettle?
yeah.
Okay.
So you could say across this whole roof there's probably enough for 300 kettles to be boiled.
All right.
So it's quite a lot of power, especially in this kind of sunlight. I mean, when winter comes around and it's overcast, you certainly couldn't boil a kettle from them. You know, you might as well switch them off, to be honest. But days like today, they're operating at full capacity, and there's tons of power coming out of them. Oh, you can't quite see it there.
What is it?
This is a power optimizer. So the system that we use on here is the inverters, which switch the DC power from the solar panels to AC power, which we use at home,
Yeah.
are called inverters. So it inverts DC to AC. So they're down in the building. There's 4 of them here, 5 of them here, and they communicate with these things in here, which are called power optimizers. So you'd have to come here to see it. It's a little black box that sits. It's this thing here.
Okay, so it's like a black box with ribs type of thing.
Yes. And those ribs can diffuse heat.
Okay.
That's a sort of safety feature, which basically, if there's a problem with the panel, in old systems that could shut out 20 panels because of the way that the panels are configured.
Right.
So we had, if we've got a problem with the panel, even though it doesn't happen very often, the optimizer will cut out that panel and leave the other 19 panels operating. So it's one of these kind of new fancy.
Yeah, that's good. And
control
does it
gear.
does it communicate to tell you which one's gone out or anything?
Yeah. So online we can go down to every panel. We've got 20,000 solar panels across the city, and we can see every single panel, and at any moment in time know what this panel is generating. So at the moment, if I sort of shadow this panel, if I went online and looked at it,
Yeah.
this would show less output than that panel there, and that
Yeah.
optimizer would think, okay, maybe there's a problem with this panel, I'm going to close it down and keep the others going. So yeah, we have a very kind of granular, we're lost in data sometimes, you know, there's a lot of data. I'll show you something. The weakest point in a solar system, the panels are pretty durable, there's no moving parts. Very rarely see panels go wrong. The weakest point is something like this, which is a MC4 connector. So this is what comes out the back of the solar panels and goes into the next one. So it connects them all together. So that's fine, you know, it's a very durable bit of plastic. But what happens is that if you get wet into these joints here, or maybe a seagull craps on these things, then it starts to degrade this connection. And eventually the connection will, the metal inside will start to disconnect because it's getting worn away. And then you'll get something called an arc, which is a high voltage leap across that joint.
Okay.
And that is what can cause a sort of spark in the thing. So that's really what you don't want to happen. So one of the things that we really look at with our systems is these things and what's happening to these things.
Right.
So if they're sitting in puddles, for example, on the roof, or if they haven't been properly tucked away underneath the panel out of the way of seagulls and things like that,
Yeah.
then that's what we sort of put a lot of emphasis on.
Okay.
So that's kind of weak point to look out for building systems.
Interesting.
I mean, these things themselves, they're very robust.
Yeah.
And we've had panels for 10 years on various roofs around the place, and it's really not the panels that goes wrong. It tends to be the cables. You know, they just degrade in sunlight or under the attention of seagulls.
Yeah.
And it doesn't immediately show on any of the monitoring what's going on with it. You know, you have to really work out. I mean, I've run through systems with infrared cameras, for example. I kind of, if you shine an infrared camera at this, if there's a cell, these is all cells. If there's a cell that's not producing, or somehow the connection's broken between cells, that cell will be producing with nowhere to put the energy, so it'll get hot. So when you put an infrared camera on this, this will show up, and this will be bright yellow.
Oh, right.
Similarly in the cabling, if you've got a problem in the cables, if one of these is not working properly and there's the metal inside is not connected, it will show up as heat, so you'll get hot spots around these things. So diagnosing problems with the UV camera
Yeah.
can be quite can show you where the problem is, where you might not be able to see it in any other way,
Oh, right. Amazing.
which is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've got to get the right UV camera,
Yeah.
the right sensitivity of the UV camera.
So, what does it feel like when you come into a site like this, and you think, wow, you know, there's 300 panels here, and there's 20,000 panels across Brighton. You know,
I
like,
suppose I've had a sort of, it's a bit of a relationship thing with me and the panels. When we started, when we did our first big systems 8 years ago, I used to just sort of go onto those roofs and sort of commune with the solar panels and just sort of sit there for hours and look out over the city, and I wasn't quite sure why I did that. And it just seemed amazing, I suppose. And then I went through a period where I wouldn't visit the roofs. I just got used to it, and it became a kind of numbers game. And now I like these sites. It's somehow now we've got bigger. We're producing a lot of energy. I mean, on a day like today, we might be producing somewhere between 5 to 10% of Brighton's energy, and that's significant. You know, we're sort of getting faster at what we do. We're growing quickly, and I think I feel less. Perhaps I used to feel that somehow the rug was just going to get pulled out from under us and it was just all going to go away. It didn't quite seem real. I think now, actually, the more people that get involved, the more people who work on Brighton Energy Co-op, it feels much more solid, and I feel a lot less like it's all just going to sort of somehow. It hasn't. The rug was never pulled out from us, but I don't know why. But it just had this sort of feeling of that it was illusion.
So you feel, I guess, secure with it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of building the team as well, especially the board of directors, getting some sort of seasoned professionals who they're often retirees who've had a professional life, and having people of that calibre involved who are willing to put their name to the project and board meetings and sign off on our stuff, and I think that gives me a great deal of security as well, and knowing that sort of, in effect, it's kind of elder members of the community behind it and willing to sort of back and have oversight of what we're doing, and that gives me a sense of security as well.
What's the wider benefit to the community as a whole?
In terms of community benefit, I mean, community benefits are often counted in terms of jobs or money. So, how many jobs are you going to create, how much money you're going to give to worthwhile causes. And while that certainly is a community benefit, I think first and foremost, the reason that Brighton Energy Co-op was set up and the reason why there are hundreds of people who've put money into it is first and foremost to reduce carbon. And that is the main community benefit of Brighton. All these solar panels here on Met College and the 20,000 other solar panels we have installed around the city save significant amounts of carbon every year. And that's got to be a community benefit, not just for the people of Brighton, but for the people of the whole world. So in terms of the sort of financial benefits, we have a community fund every year, which our members vote on what we're going to do with that fund every year. This year we are funding education on renewables in 15 schools that we have solar on in Brighton. Previously we have paid for solar panels on other organisations' roofs. We've funded surveys in fuel poor households and various other initiatives like that. And I think there's also the benefit. Brighton Energy Co-op was set up after the Copenhagen Climate Conference of 2009, when it was manifestly obvious that nobody was going to do anything from a government side on climate change. And initiatives like Brighton Energy Co-op and the 200 or 300 other cooperatives around the country provide a model to people that they can do these things themselves, or they can contribute to in some way to mitigating the climate crisis. And I think it's everyone that started an energy co-op in the country, and everyone that's been through the process of starting an energy co-op are providing a kind of beacon to other people who may well follow in their footsteps. And I think that is it's a very intangible community benefit, but that is almost like providing hope or inspiration and support to people across the country and across the world. It's not just in the UK. That Germany has many energy co-ops, Denmark has many energy co-ops, and it's this kind of sort of DIY approach. It shows that it can be done, and it's not just this sort of homespun back of a pub sort of thing. Brighton Energy Co-op is worth £3.2 million now, and has 600 investors, and that is DIY at scale, and I suppose providing that kind of example is in my mind a great benefit to people out there.
I was talking to some guy, like a chap on our street the other day, who works in the energy industry generally, and he said basically that in the next few years there's going to be a 30% increase in the amount of renewables in Britain because of offshore wind and all the rest of it, and so he's really not kind of worried about the amount of renewables in Britain. He thinks that we're kind of ahead of what we wanted to be, and almost from that he doesn't see the value in our street going off, getting energy. What do you think about his feelings on that? And in a way it devalues the whole idea of community energy companies, what he's saying, and yet here you are producing like maybe 10% of Brighton's energy today. Seems a strange I feel it's a strange position, but
I think this is sort of endemic. This idea that big business, big projects are gonna sort everything out for us is endemic in big business circles, obviously, but in government as well. This is the go-to solution to everything. It's never, we'll kind of broadly help or support the wider population doing this. It's we'll contact a couple of big multinationals and they'll build big projects and we'll sort it out. And you see that with nuclear power, you see it with offshore wind. And increasingly you see it with solar too, with these vast solar farms that are going up. It's always this kind of big project thinking that comes, well, I suppose it comes from big business. And so people that work in big business tend to think like this. They say, we'll just stick a load of big stuff over there and that'll sort it out, and we don't, anything small or perhaps more organic feeling is a waste of time, because our big business money guys in the city have got a couple of billion that we're going to raise from some financial instrument, and that's how they do it as well. So that's what I mean about it sort of it being endemic. It's a kind of culture of big business. And so that's why I feel somebody would say something like that.
yeah.
Does that devalue, even if it's true, does it devalue? No, not at all. I mean, I think the ambition of getting energy on everybody's house in the street is a great, and it saying that we don't need to do that also totally ignores the human aspect of that and the kind of galvanizing effect and the fact that when people get solar panels on their roof, they'll go and sit on their roof like I did and look at these things. And there's a human aspect to it as well. In terms of community benefit, I mean, community benefits are often counted in terms of jobs or money. So how many jobs are you going to create, how much money you're going to give to worthwhile causes. And while that certainly is a community benefit, I think first and foremost, the reason that Brighton Energy Co-op was set up and the reason why there are hundreds of people who've put money into it is first and foremost to reduce carbon. And that is the main community benefit of Brighton. All these solar panels here on Met College and the 20,000 other solar panels we have installed around the city save significant amounts of carbon every year, and that's got to be a community benefit, not just for the people of Brighton but for the people of the whole world.